I think let's go over quickly to the bulletin side of things. We come into churches and we see different kinds of bulletins. I see Sister Adelle nodding ahead. I think you can go ahead and just share with us, what do we include in our bulletins? How should our bulletins be looked? And I know that obviously bulletins, some people are printing, but there are other options that we can use to share our bulletins. Sister Adelle, can you lead us in this one?
Thank you, Pastor Eugene. When Pastor Grant was talking, I thought, my goodness, this sounds like a full-time job, and I just want to pause for a second and just say, ComSecs out there, we appreciate everything you do. It's not easy. You sacrifice a lot of your own time, and if no one else has said it, the Western Region Cape Conference newsletter committee wants to say thank you. Thank you for everything you do. All right, so the question posed by some of the people who signed up was, what information is included in a bulletin? And then a second question was, how often should it be published? Now, a bulletin, I think, is a great tool when it comes to communicating with the membership, but only if it's used properly and effectively, because they capture the attention of both your church members, but they also capture the attention of first-time visitors from the very beginning. And you'll agree with me that, that is also a little bit of outreach. Now, generally, I feel like when you have a really good bulletin, it should incite some kind of conversation around the lunch table. Somebody could be saying, hey, did you see the SYL link in the bulletin? I really think you should go and do that course. Or, I didn't know Pastor Human is turning 99. That's amazing. God has really been good, So I think it should incite conversation. But there are also some very specific purposes that every church has and includes in their bulletins, and also depending on the format. Now, we don't want to go ahead and kind of expect that every single church must do it the way we do it, because you know your audience. Some churches are tiny and they don't need a 3-page colorful spread week by week. All they might need is a little bulletin on WhatsApp. And then there are other churches, mega churches, who do the most. But here are a couple of things that maybe we can consider to put inside of a bulletin. A welcome message. Now, when I talk about a welcome message, it's not a filler on your page. It must say something about your congregation. And I love one of the welcome messages from a church in the US that I help with their design work. They say, welcome to our congregation, where strangers become friends and friends become family. That says something about your congregation, especially to a visitor, right? So a welcome message. Then maybe you want to have your church's mission and vision. You guys have spent so much time in your church strat meeting and nobody ever sees it. Why don't you put it on your bulletin? Then what about using your bulletin to promote the World Church's vision? Use the I Will Go, use the growth strategy. All the information is posted there for you to use. Those are your resources, guys. You never have to have a problem with filling up a newsletter. Then I also want to include sometimes an order of service. People still use that if they have like a printed bulletin. It's nice for visitors as well, because they don't know what you're going to be doing. But if they have an order of service, maybe it'll guide them a little bit, make them feel comfortable. And then, of course, your announcements, upcoming events on a local level, conference, the World Church. I find that their GC special days calendar is really helpful for me. When it's creation Sabbath, I generally use that as the theme for that 1 week when it's family life, etc. So use your resources. A lot of time has gone into preparing that, and it's for you. You can use it. Celebrate with your members. Somebody's graduated. It's a birthday, an anniversary. You know, church members really like to see their name in the bulletin. And I find that when there are articles that has somebody's picture in there, they're going to share it, you know. So try and use your membership as much as possible, as opposed to generic, but get permission first. And then prayer requests and praise reports are also, you know, wonderful to put in your bulletin. And then also feedback. Don't just announce. Do a little bit of homework and feedback. Ask so-and-so, so how was that Pathfinder camp? You never know if there's some parent or some young person in your membership that will go the next time because of somebody else's feedback or report back. So put that in your bulletin. Some other ideas could include, you know, at the beginning of the year after nomination, and now you have all your new members, put the picture of your youth leader and a little write-up, or of your ACS, because people will want to speak to a leader, but they don't necessarily know who those people are. So make it easy for them. That's your job. Communicate what is happening in terms of the leaders in your church. And then nothing stops you from also including, I know at my church, we have a school on the campus, and I often feature what's happening at Riverside Primary in the bulletin. Short testimonies, and then very important, your church's contact information. You know, the pastor's number, the email address of the church secretary, for example, and links to your church's website and other digital sources could also go in there. And then the church's banking details for those of us who do tithing online electronically. That little, Godwin, what is it, a snap scan logo that you can use and pay online, you can do that. And if you're still using the printed bulletin, maybe you want to leave a space for sermon notes. I still smile when I look at an old Bible or hymnal and I find a bulletin in there with written notes from my parents who are no longer around. So you could even do that. So those are a few ideas that you can use to put inside of your bulletin. And don't worry to take notes, because if you've signed up to the group, we're going to send all of this information to you. All right. And then that second question was, how often should a bulletin go out? Well, generally, I think weekly is appropriate, because people want to see who's preaching, you know, what's happening this weekend. So even if you want to start, if you're new, you just want to do a one-pager and talk about what's happening on the weekend, that's fine. And then later on, as you progress and become more confident, you might want to do a weekly one-pager, and at the end of the month, like a longer, more like a view of the month before, and just kind of round it up, give some feedback about all the programs that have happened, etc. So that is my take on what should go in a bulletin and how often it should be published. Is anybody, one of the panelists, maybe anything that I've left out that you'd want to add?
I think Brother Godwin can come in here probably with the next question, which was asked by one of the attendees, and that is, can it be published on a church's website? So I think the question is with regards to the bulletin, can the bulletin be published on the church's website?
Thank you, Pastor Eugene. Well, with everything that Adelle said out there, if you think about it, your church bulletin is a marketing tool. for your services and an information resource, not just for your church members, but for visitors walking through your doors, if you still have those printed bulletins. Now, by having an online presence, your bulletin can share valuable information that gets people engaged with your church, and it encourages members and visitors alike to strengthen their faith. Now, online bulletins can reach more people and it reach them faster. So your members don't have to wait until Sabbath morning to see what is happening today or for the week ahead. So more churches are transitioning to this mode of communication, and they're actually seeing very, very good results. Now, again, my response to that question would be, Pastor Eugene, an absolutely yes with an exclamation mark. There is no secret in a church bulletin, right? Think about it. Printed bulletins, as I just said, were handed out to everyone walking through our church doors. So why would it not be allowed or suitable to have it published on your website? I personally don't find any reason for not sharing a church bulletin online. On the contrary, it's a valuable source for members and for our online or for your online visitors. It helps build relationships amongst the members. It gets people engaged in what your church is offering, and it encourages members and visitors, as I said earlier on, alike to strengthen their faith. So these are just some of the benefits to encourage online bulletins.
Yeah, thanks. And I think, you know, if I happen to miss or go to another church and not attend my church, I will miss it, physically, the bulletin, but I can always go back and to the website or some sort of link and get that information. There's two questions for Sister Adelle, just based on the bulletin, and maybe Maritza asks, or at least asks, what about the corner, like a children's corner? I don't think. What do you think of that?
Thank you, Maritza. For me, whatever works. I mean, there are so many ideas. We haven't even covered the surface. So absolutely, I tend to feature the children's division on Children's Day, but it can be in every bulletin if you like. If you have a lot of kids in your church, and you want to keep them engaged, put in a coloring page for the kids for after church, do it. That's amazing. And there was another question with regards to how to join the group. So I think what I could suggest is, I think it was Prisca who asked, you can leave your details in the chat and we will get in touch with you on how to join that particular group. I'm not sure if the survey is still online. Thank you so much.
Okay, Godwin, you have something to add to that? Just on the survey, on not the survey, but how to join the group?
Yes, Pastor Eugene, I've just shared that link now. I will go check if that link is still open. If not, we will just extend that survey.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to bring in Pastor Donovan, who's been a bit on the quieter side. Just amazed at what is being shared here. So Pastor Donovan, perhaps you can just answer this one. How does a communication secretary not overstep its lines with the media department in church?
Thanks, Pastor Eugene. I'm quite happy just listening to all the good inputs given. Like to me, now this is not I don't have a textbook answer for this one, but what makes sense to me is that, the communication secretary is the one that is representing the church in public relations, for example, with communication. So I think the media department should support the communication secretary in communicating the content that the communication secretary wants to distribute. Because I think that is the person that is, I would say, ultimately responsible for the content that goes out. So I think they should work hand in hand together. It's not a competition. I think their roles just need to be defined well so that people know, okay, well, this aspect is mine. For example, the media department can find ways to effectively communicate what the content that has been provided by the communication secretary, something to that effect. I think if a church has both of the departments, I think they could work together that way. But I would appreciate input from others. Thank you.
Yeah, Pastor, I would just add to that we are one church, and we need to work together. Typically, the communication department should have the responsibility for media platforms such as Facebook and those kind of things. And the media team, they are the ones that enable, the media and the church and so forth. But they're also the ones who live stream. And so there has to be cooperation between those two, because the communication department has the page, but the media guys have the tools and the technology to live stream through that page. And so we need to remember, we are one church, we are one family, and there is need for us as departments to work together to effectively get the gospel message going there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Pastor Grant, maybe you can answer the next one. So who do we communicate with?
Yes, communication department communicates. The answer can be put very simply. Firstly, communicate with members. We secondly communicate with non-members. So members, of course, you communicate information about the church, updates. Sister Adelle went through that whole list. I still had my hand up, but by the time she was done, I didn't need to say anything more because she really covered it, And by the way, the only thing that I could add, but Sister Adelle made it very clear too, as important as missionary work and evangelism is for the church, relationship building and fellowship is as important. And that's something, that bulletins and these kind of things can also enhance in the church, is to create a space for fellowship. And so, sharing that important information, such as who graduated, who's in matric that we should pray for, it creates that fellowship. So we communicate with the members of our church. We need to be updated. We need to be encouraged to get involved in the mission. But we also communicate with the world who we need to reach with the gospel. And this is why I say communication secretaries should, at the moment the church is planning for a campaign or planning to do something that involves the community, requires the community, go to the newspaper. Even if the church needs to pay for them to put just, one block in that newspaper that's going to go out on whatever particular day, if you can get a slot on the radio just to regularly remind people that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is located. There's something about KFC that Dr. Dave Spencer, the previous SAU president, always said we can learn from KFC. The moment you drive into any town, you will see that there's always a sign that says KFC is this way for so many kilometers. You will drive into a town and look for a Seventh-day Adventist church and drive in circles. Thank God, for Google these days. I think most of our churches, you can search on Google, but there are still some. Imagine driving into a town and there is a banner or a sign or something that says the Seventh-day Adventist church in this direction, so many more kilometers. Our churches should invest in signage. Communication leaders invest that when people drive past the building, make sure there's signage on your buildings. That's your responsibility, communication, to communicate with the passers-by, with people who don't know the church. Make sure that they know that this is a Seventh-day Adventist church. So put up signing that is clear, that is visible, so that passers-by, so that people who come into your town, they must know this is the Seventh-day Adventist church, I can go there. So we communicate with our members, but we also communicate with the people who we want to reach with the gospel.
Yeah, thanks. Just to add to that, as from the communication side, I think, and from the conference side, we are strongly encouraging members and churches to have geolocation, to be able to, wherever you worship, whether it is in a municipality hall or whether it's in a creche, if you are having worship wherever you are, put in there. I'm in Delft, having worship. You never know. It now becomes an evangelistic tool. I remember just last week we were in George, and someone came to George for the first time, and they were just attending for the fourth time Adventist church, and they were in Joburg, moved over, and they wanted to continue having church services in George for the fourth time consecutive Sabbath. And they could punch in, and they were, blessed to have various locations to find a church, and they chose the church nearby. Coincidentally, the church or the location was a municipality, because we have a church worshiping in the municipality, and they were directed to that church where we had a massive gathering. And this one was, the young man was embraced, and so immediately we can use this as an evangelistic tool. There's also, I think, we probably won't cover it here, but I think there's another aspect, when it comes to, I don't know with regards, and maybe this is, you're going to have to take it as it comes, panelists, but just on the Poppy Act, right? When we are dealing with photos and we are dealing with things into the bulletin, can we put in photos of individuals on these platforms, whether it is on the website or in the newsletters of our churches or bulletins? I don't know if anyone wants to assist there.
All I can say there, I think we need to be very careful, and I think permission will cover one. I mean, I'm even thinking church WhatsApp groups, for example. What I like to do there is, rather invite people via the link, then they can join, instead of you adding them, unless you've got their express permission to do so. So, I mean, Poppy is all about protecting personal information, and there's different types of personal information. So I think we should respect that, and make sure that we have the necessary permissions to post what we're posting. So I definitely think there's need for further discussion and training on this for churches. How does that apply to us, and how can we respect people's personal information and still do our jobs as communication leaders?
Thank you, Pastor Don.